Welcome back to GeoCrisis Update, your trusted source for detailed analysis of global conflicts and geopolitical developments. In today's video, we'll dive deep into the victory plan presented by Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky, a plan designed not only to secure Ukraine's future, but also to reshape the geopolitical balance in Europe. If you're new here or haven't subscribed yet, make sure to hit the subscribe button and turn on notifications so you don't miss any updates on crucial global events. Since February 2022, Ukraine has been caught in the throes of one of the most devastating wars in recent European history. Russia's large-scale invasion triggered a conflict that has transformed the landscape of Eastern Europe, with far-reaching consequences not just for the immediate region but for the world at large. This war has destroyed cities, displaced millions of people, and caused the deaths of thousands of civilians and soldiers on both sides. The international community has been grappling with the ramifications of this conflict, which threatens to destabilize not only Europe but also the global balance of power. To fully grasp Zelensky's victory plan, it's important to understand the underlying issues that make this conflict so significant. The Russian invasion is not merely about reclaiming territory or asserting dominance over Ukraine. It's an attempt by Russia to challenge and dismantle the European security order that has been in place since the end of the Cold War. For decades, Russia has felt marginalized by the West and NATO, watching as its former Soviet satellites moved towards Western alliances and democratic systems. In many ways, this war is about reversing that trajectory, with Moscow aiming to reassert its influence over territories it considers part of its historical sphere of control. For Ukraine, however, this war is existential. It's about survival as an independent, sovereign nation. Ukraine has been fighting to protect its democratic institutions, its right to self-determination, and its place in the international community. What happens in Ukraine will set a precedent for how future conflicts might unfold, especially in terms of international law and the global norms of sovereignty. Since the conflict began, Ukraine has relied heavily on Western support, both military and economic. The United States, the United Kingdom, the European Union, and other allies have provided vital assistance in the form of arms, funding, intelligence, and logistical support. Without this aid, Ukraine would have struggled to mount the strong resistance it has shown against Russian forces. But as the war drags on, the pressure to find a lasting solution has been mounting, not just in Kyiv but in Western capitals as well, where political leaders are facing the realities of public fatigue, economic pressures, and the constant threat of escalation. In response to these challenges, Zelensky's victory plan was formulated, a comprehensive strategy designed to bring an end to the war on terms favorable to Ukraine, ensuring its long-term survival and security. The plan is built around 5 key pillars, each addressing a different aspect of the conflict. The first pillar is Ukraine's accession to NATO. For Zelensky, joining NATO represents the ultimate guarantee of Ukraine's security. NATO, with its collective defense principle enshrined in Article 5, would provide Ukraine with a powerful shield against future Russian aggression. However, this is also the most controversial element of the plan, particularly from Russia's perspective. Moscow has long viewed NATO's expansion eastward as a direct threat to its security, considering it a red line. Since the early 2000s, Russia has repeatedly expressed concerns about NATO's growing presence in Eastern Europe, and the possibility of Ukraine joining the alliance has always been a sticking point. For Zelensky, though, NATO membership is non-negotiable. Only under the protection of a robust military alliance like NATO can Ukraine secure its sovereignty in the long term. The second pillar of Zelensky's plan involves strengthening Ukraine's defenses against Russia's continued aggression. This includes the acquisition and deployment of long-range weapons, provided by Western allies, which would allow Ukraine to strike deep into Russian territory. This marks a significant shift in the nature of Ukraine's military strategy, from a primarily defensive posture to one that includes offensive operations within Russian borders. Such operations serve two purposes. First, they keep pressure on Moscow by showing that Ukraine is not defenseless. Second, they prevent Russia from establishing buffer zones within Ukrainian territory, which would allow them to consolidate control over occupied regions. However, this approach carries risks, particularly the potential for escalation. Striking targets within Russia could provoke a wider conflict, dragging NATO and other Western allies directly into the war. Yet Zelensky believes that only by taking a more aggressive stance can Ukraine force Russia to negotiate on more favorable terms. The third pillar of the victory plan is perhaps the most strategic: non-nuclear deterrence. Zelensky's vision here is to avoid the catastrophic risks associated with nuclear war, while still maintaining a powerful, credible defense posture. To achieve this, Ukraine would need advanced non-nuclear defense systems, likely provided by the West. These systems would allow Ukraine to defend itself against Russian missile and air attacks without crossing the nuclear threshold. For Zelensky, this sends a message to both Russia and Ukraine's Western allies. Ukraine is committed to defending itself and taking responsibility for its own security, as long as it receives the necessary resources and technology. This also reassures Western nations that Ukraine is not seeking permanent foreign troop deployments on its soil, but rather the tools to defend itself. Zelensky's fourth pillar introduces an economic dimension to the plan. It proposes a long-term strategic partnership with the United States and the European Union to explore and protect Ukraine's natural resources, including critical minerals and other essential commodities for high-tech industries. Ukraine is not just a battleground. It's a country rich in natural resources, and Zelensky is positioning it as a vital player in the global economy. By encouraging Western investment in Ukraine's infrastructure and resource development, Zelensky hopes to make the country an integral part of the global supply chain, while simultaneously bolstering Ukraine's post-war reconstruction efforts. This proposal has obvious appeal to Western leaders, who are looking for ways to justify continued support for Ukraine, not only as a matter of security but as a sound economic investment. The fifth and final pillar of the plan deals with the post-war security architecture of Europe. Zelensky suggests that Ukrainian soldiers could replace some American troops currently stationed in Europe, further integrating Ukraine into the Western defense framework. This would help alleviate some of the financial and logistical burdens on NATO, while also strengthening Ukraine's military capability. By doing this, Ukraine becomes not only a recipient of security assistance, but an active contributor to European defense. However, this proposal raises important questions about Ukraine's military autonomy and the long-term implications of such an integration. Zelensky presented his victory plan to key Western leaders, including U.S. President Joe Biden. Biden responded by pledging an additional $425 million in military aid, a significant boost for Ukraine's ongoing defense efforts. However, with the U.S. elections on the horizon, there is uncertainty about the future of this support. The outcome of the election could dramatically alter the United States' approach to Ukraine, especially if a new administration prioritizes domestic concerns over foreign engagements. The political winds in the U.S. could have a profound impact on the war's trajectory, and both Kiev and Moscow are acutely aware of this. Russia's reaction to the plan was predictably negative. The Kremlin dismissed it as unrealistic, arguing that any peace initiative that doesn't involve territorial concessions from Ukraine is destined to fail. Moscow has consistently maintained that its control over Crimea and other occupied territories is non-negotiable, and without those concessions, they see no path to a peaceful resolution. This raises a critical question. How long can Ukraine continue to resist without yielding territory? And how long will the West continue to back Ukraine's stance, especially if the battlefield situation deteriorates? Zelensky's victory plan is undeniably ambitious. It reflects Ukraine's resilience and determination to fight on multiple fronts: military, diplomatic, economic, and strategic. The plan offers a glimpse into what the future of Ukraine and Europe could look like if the war ends on Ukraine's terms. However, the success of the plan depends on a range of external factors, from political stability in the US to the European Union's ability to maintain a united front in the face of ongoing Russian aggression. In the coming months, the international community will be watching closely to see whether Zelensky's plan gains traction. Will it be accepted by Western leaders as a viable roadmap for victory? Or will it face insurmountable challenges, both on the battlefield and in the political arena? The decisions made in the next phase of this war will shape the geopolitical landscape of Europe for decades to come. Thank you for watching today's episode of GeoCrisis Update. If you found this analysis insightful, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications to stay up to date with the latest geopolitical developments. See you next time.